If there's one thing that I know by now, it's that if there is a war looming, chances are the everyday person, the working class person, does not want to go to war. And they definitely don't want to put their bodies on the line. There were demonstrations of Irish workers in New York, Boston, and Lowell against the annexation of Texas. In May, when the war against Mexico began, New York working men called a meeting to oppose the war, and many Irish workers came. The meeting called the war a plot by slave owners and asked for the withdrawal of the American troops from disputed territory. New England Working Men's Association condemned the war and announced they would not take up arms to sustain the southern slaveholder in robbing 1/5 of our countrymen of their labor. Mexico was a despotism, a land of Indians and mestizos controlled by criollos, whites of Spanish blood. There were 1 million criollos, 2 million mestizos, 3 million Indians. Was the natural disinclination of peasants to fight for a country owned by landlords overcome by the nationalist spirit roused against an invader? We know much more about the American army, volunteers, not conscripts, lured by money and opportunity for social advancement via promotion in the armed forces. Half of General Taylor's army were recent immigrants, Irish and German mostly. Many of them deserted to the Mexican side, enticed by money. Some enlisted in the Mexican army and formed their own battalion, the San Patricio Battalion. Reports grew of men forced to be volunteers, impressed for service. One James Miller of Norfolk, Virginia, protested that he had been persuaded by the influence of an unusual quantity of ardent spirits to sign a paper enrolling for military service. Next morning, I was dragged aboard a boat, landed at Fort Monroe, and closed immured in the guardhouse for 16 days. By late 1846, recruitment was falling off, so physical requirements were lowered, and anyone bringing in acceptable recruits would get $2 a head. So there was a financial incentive for people to get other people to sign up for war. Congress in early 1847 authorized 10 new regiments of regulars to serve for the duration of the war, promising them 100 acres of public land upon honorable discharge. Like I've said time and time again, you give them a little bit and you dangle a little something in front of them, the poor people, to get them to go to war. And then chances are you won't even actually make right with what you lured them into a war for after they survived the war. It was a separate war that went on in California, where Anglo-Americans raided Spanish settlements, stole horses, and declared California separated from Mexico, the Bear Flag Republic. So remember, in Texas, they were fighting, and then they were also fighting in California, because technically Texas was separated from Mexico, but they were going beyond the natural border that was there when Texas gained its independence. They wanted to go beyond that, so they were helping to further the border in Texas, and they were also fighting in California.